It's time for the Voice of Indie. Your hosts today are Beem, author and producer for Fresh Ink Group, and Stephen Gies, author, producer, composer, and publisher for Fresh Ink Group.
Oh, hey, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Voice of Indie podcast. This is episode number 240, and I'm your host, Beem Weeks, and a little under the weather is Mr. Stephen Gies. How you feeling, Stephen? Yeah.
Well, I've been better, but hey, nothing wakes a person up more than talking to John W. Howell, our guest tonight. So I'm excited for tonight's show.
Yes, we are. We got a couple of comments here. We got Robert Willowscroft present and waiting.
All right.
Wearing wise, I'm wearing Ozzy Osbourne. This is the Diary of a Madman tour. I saw this back on February 5th, 1982. I know this because I have my ticket stubs from most of my concerts already. Steve Miller Band.
Steve Miller Band. I'm a joker. I'm a smoker. I'm a
midnight toker. Now, with the Ozzy show, 6 weeks after I saw Ozzy, his young guitarist, Randy Rhoads, got killed in a plane crash. And that was, he's the first person I ever saw in concert that has passed away. Now there's bunches of them, 40 odd years later. But good times back then. We've also got right here, we got Verwayne Greenhow. He says same here, meaning that he's tuned in. And the wife and I are watching on YouTube on our TV. Is it a big screen TV, Verwayne? Is my face big as King Kong's? All right. So, all right. Now, we got a few things going on. If Steven ducks out, it's because he's kind of feeling a little under the weather, but he'll duck back in. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Well, we're touting Patricia A. Guthrie's new book, Matt's Murder, which was the last book that we published, and we're working on In the Arms of the Enemy. That going to be a pretty good book, Beam?
I believe it's going to be a really good book. Patricia A. Guthrie is a master craftswoman writer for those unique murder mysteries that sends you this way, then they send you that way with little twists and turns. And she's this one's another one right up there. Matt's Murder I really enjoyed, and this one as well as even her short stories. She's got some fantastic short stories, eerie charms of the short story. If you like short stories, some of them are spooky with a little twist of humor in them. Go check that out. We want you to post your comments like you just saw from Robert G. Willowscroft and from Verwayne Greenhow already. We'd like to hear from you. So here's how you can post your comment right there. Go over to like they did on YouTube or X or Facebook or LinkedIn. And I believe we're even live on TikTok right now, which is kind of neat because I wasn't sure if TikTok was working. And I had gone over there to look for some stuff, and I saw the 2 episodes since I linked TikTok and looked at the numbers, and we're picking up some pretty good views over there. So, and speaking of Patricia A. Guthrie, she's right there. Hi, Pat. Hi. We were talking about you. Were your ears burning?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, as you know, we've signed a couple of new authors this past week. I'm going to mention one specifically, Dr. Konachek. He's down there in Texas, and we're just thrilled to death because we've never had an author from Texas before. So, the very idea of having somebody from, Jan Sykes, Judy White Arts, actually, we've got about 20 authors from Texas, but Dr. Konachek's in the real estate business. And he's writing a series on entrepreneurship and dealing with estates and estate planning and how to do real estate listings for dead people and all kinds of things that I know I've been dying to learn about. So he's going to do a 3-book series, and we're getting that going right away and building a website for him. We got a couple other people with stuff in the pipeline too.
Yeah, I believe it's Abigail Hugueny.
Yeah,
she's got she wrote the First Ladies of North Carolina State, NC State, and she's got one for Alabama A&M. That's the follow-up, and this is going to be cool. If you've followed along, the First Ladies of NC State, this is a historical book. It's all of the women who were behind the presidents of this university, and cool pictures, very interesting stories, and it marks history, and very cool. So we're going to see another one for Alabama A&M.
The one that's out is called Mr. President, I've Got Your Back.
Yeah.
First lady of South Carolina State University.
And Patricia A. Guthrie, she's right there. I'm here and watching. You can join in too with your comments, and we want to hear from you. And we would like also for you to subscribe to our newsletter and help us build this thing up as we've been talking about week after week. And it would also be cool if you would drop over to YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're growing, and it's a snail's pace growth, but we're growing, and we would like to really increase this. We're having a lot of fun making a platform that is going to cater to not just our authors, but to other authors and musicians and people like that. And it's just a lot of fun we're having right now. So.
Yeah, now since we're using some new platforms here for this live stream podcast, we're starting to see some shifts in our social media. So we want to encourage you people to get out there and find Fresh Ink Group. If you've not found us on Facebook yet, or LinkedIn, or YouTube, or any of the places that we're starting to get more and more attention now, get out there, like us, share us, and talk about the podcast and help us keep those numbers up. But get out there and look for us, look where we are, and also look for our individual authors when you're out looking for places too. Like if you go to Facebook, we've got Voice of Indy, we've got Fresh Ink Group, we've got Stephen G's Writer, we've got Fresh Ink Group Kids, we've got what else we got, Beem?
We've got a whole bunch of stuff, and we're trying to build this up. We got Fresh Ink Group and Fig Publishing on TikTok, Fresh Ink Group and Fig Publishing and Voice of Indy on Instagram, and go over there, and plus we've got Fresh Ink Group on X, and Stephen G's on X, and Beem Weeks on X, and Voice of Indy on X. And the Voice of Indy on TikTok is pretty much just it's music related. So that's something that I started a long time ago, but it's I still try to throw some stuff in for this show, but it's a whole different audience on there at this point. So that's why we created the other two channels for Fresh Ink Group and Fig Publishing. So go find us over there if you're on that, and follow. We've got book trailers on both of those channels, and a lot of cool stuff. So
LinkedIn is a good example. I haven't seen this week's numbers yet. I saw last week's numbers, but we went from about 30 impressions to almost 1,700 for the promotion for our podcast that week, just in the space of 3 weeks. So those numbers are jumping up pretty fast. We want to encourage that, and you can help. So we appreciate that.
Yeah. So, help with the subscriptions and all that, and get to the newsletter, get to the YouTube channel. Like I said, we're really trying to build this up. We're trying to come up with different ways, some other things to do, and keep in tune. We'll be giving away a brand new Corvette, right? No, just kidding. There won't be any of that. But
no, I think it was a Stingray. One of those things that swims around.
One of those yeah. Wasn't a car, it was an animal.
Let's see what's been happening in print sales from Fresh Ink.
All
Group.
right.
The top 25 print bestsellers from Fresh Ink Group. It's going to be 23 this week, because this past week there's been 23 titles that made the list. So let's start with number 23. Celebrate 98, the untold stories behind the Tennessee Football Vols 1998 National Championship by Dave Hooker from Off the Hook Sports. Carlisle Thoms, one of our favorite novelists. We've got a handful of books by him. The Gulls Are Always Laughing, A Gay Man's Journey to Healing and Spirituality. Now, everything we've published by Carlisle has been novels except this. This is a collection of prose and poetry.
Yeah.
And we're happy to see that it's made the list. Trains of Alabama, Short Lines, Rail Yards, Engines, Heritage Units, Rail Fan Photos, and More by teenager Braden Dexter Green. That's in the number 21 slot. Congratulations, Braden. Your train book is still out there selling well. All right, starting at number 20, Loretta Spencer, A Passion for Service, a candid memoir by the first woman mayor of Huntsville, Alabama. And then Trains of Alabama again. This is the hardcover edition now that's moving up on that list. And then Michael Filippello's Maritambo Moonsong, illustrated book for children, and it's paintings that he's done. Tells a little story about Maritambo. All right, Nell Cooper, Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow. This is her first novel aimed at adults. She did a chapter book aimed at children about a pony called Princess Lil. Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow. You like this book, don't you, Beam?
Oh, I had the opportunity to the honor of editing it, and it's a fantastic story. And even if it wasn't one of ours, I would still highly recommend it. Nell Cooper is a fantastic storyteller, and she's got characters galore in this, and they're all well-rounded characters. So if you like good quality writing that tells a story, this is it.
All right, in the number 16 slot, we've already mentioned this book, Mr. President, I've Got Your Back, The First Ladies of South Carolina State University by Abigail H. Ugini. She also has a co-author, Mary L. Smalls, who was also a First Lady at South Carolina State University. Abigail's going it alone, I believe, on the Alabama A&M book that she's working on to put out next. But Mr. President, I've Got Your Back by Ugini. Yeah, number 15, A Beggar's Bargain by Jan Sykes, one of those Texas authors we were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, now A Beggar's Bargain is the first book in the series. What's the second one called, Beam?
A Noble Bargain, and that's out and available. And Jan is out there doing book signings and things like that. She makes a lot of public appearances on these things, so check it out.
And then we have The Hippocampus, the interactive brain book, Fun Learning for Science Lovers by Dr. Helen Burrell. And that's an illustrated book aimed at children to teach about the brain. It's a very cool book. And now Dave Hooker's Celebrate 98, the untold stories behind the Tennessee Football Vols 1998 National Championship. The hardcover edition has made our list in the number 13 slot. And then How to Teach Driving, the Parents Edition by Kenneth Lundquist. Usually it's the Instructors Edition we see on here first, but the Parents Edition and the Instructors Edition are two versions of a very similar book aimed at helping people be better at teaching teenagers how to drive. How to Start and Run Your Own Food Truck Business in Florida by A.K. Wingler. She's also got one for Tennessee. She's also got one for Georgia. These are cool books. All right, in the number 10 slot, top 10 now. How to Start and Run Your Own Food Truck Business in Florida. Again, this one's the hardcover edition. And then we have Jeannie Sharp, A Chance to Choose, a Second Chances novel. That's Christian romance. Robert G. Willis Croft, Operation Ivy Bells, and Mac McDowell Mission. That's the first in his Mac McDowell Submarine Cold War Thriller series. And then we got Mark Herndon, The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip, and again, Robert G. Willis Croft, Operation Ivy Bells, a Mac McDowell Mission, and this one's the hardcover edition, is in our number 6 slot. All right, here's the top 5, people. Look at that. The Hippocampus is in the number 5 slot.
Wow.
Interactive Brain Book, Fun Learning for Science Lovers. Dr. Burrell published that book 5-6 years ago, something like that, and she's been out there promoting it this week. Look what's happening.
Yeah.
B.A. Johnson, Sassy Discovers the AME Church. That's the first of her 2 Sassy books, illustrated chapter books aimed at children who want to learn about their AME Church. And that one was tied. That was tied for third place with Loretta Spencer, A Passion for Service, a candid memoir by the first woman mayor of Huntsville, Alabama. That gets us to our silver and gold stars. Our number 2, The Nurses, Nurses of the Krieg, book 1. What's that about, Beam?
I haven't read it, but it's a World War II novel that's dealing with the nurses, the women behind the scenes that patched up those guys, and some of the shenanigans that they got up to. And check it out.
Yeah, it focuses on 2 teenage girls who grow up wanting to be nurses, and they happen to be doing this at the time that war breaks out in Germany where they live. So they get caught up in being very young war nurses. It's quite a thriller. And then retired U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander Jerry Pate, with an assistance from Robert G. Willis Croft, Submariner, 30 Years of Hijinks and Keeping the Fleet Afloat, is our number 1 Gold Star winner this week. Congratulations, Jerry.
Yeah, congratulations, Jerry. If you've missed an episode, or you just want to go back and listen to some of those early audio only, hey, you're out there washing the dishes and you don't have time to look at the TV, but you want to hear an old episode, we still got those out there in these places. And if you are digging the new format with the videos, where you get to see us, well, here you go. We're out here with all of this cool stuff. And if you would like to contact the show, you want to say hey or or that was an awful episode, or we love that guest, have them back on. This is how you can do that, and we will get it. And if you want to make contact with one of our guests and you didn't get their contact info, just send whatever it is you want to get to them at that, and we will make sure that they get it. And we are going to pull up a couple of book trailers here, and we're going to play these. Let's see what we got in line first. Okay, so we'll start with this one right here.
Psychologist Annabelle O'Brien flees from her psychotic ex-husband in New York City, only to find he is stalking her across the country with deadly intentions. She takes a job in the town of Lake Nature. When a series of attacks place her in even greater danger, Annabelle turns to hostile burnout of a detective, Mark Driscoll, who is assigned to protect her. Then, two women who resemble her are murdered, and the town is gripped with fear. Mark and Annabelle must work together to catch the killer before he catches them. From the celebrated author of such bestsellers as Legacy of Danger and her collection Eerie Charms of the Short Story, Water Lilies Over My Grave is a novel of psychological suspense about one woman searching for a new life, even as she is threatened by her old one. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, Water Lilies Over My Grave is available in all print and digital formats worldwide.
Managing pain with opioids is a science. Except politics, money, and overzealous law enforcement are denying American patients the relief they so desperately need. Demonizing the best pain reliever we have leads to needless suffering, even suicides, and it drives the rise in deadly street drugs. Helen Burrell gathers and presents the evidence, the intimidation, the raids of clinics, the chilling effect on those very professionals we trust to care for our loved ones and ourselves. She looks hard at the Veterans Administration, Drug Enforcement Agency, Department of Justice, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Chapters include the Suboxone hoax, the wrong arms of the law, and the epidemic of death. Now in hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats, American Agony is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group. Read American Agony now, or you might be the next one hurt.
All right.
Yeah.
American Agony. Yeah.
That's Dr. Helen Burrell, who wrote the Hippocampus, the children's book, which is writing on our list this week.
We've got a couple of comments here. We got Liz Gaffro. She is waving hi or clapping. That's a clapping emoji, I believe. Hello, Liz. Good to have you in the audience.
Yeah.
Patricia Guthrie is talking about one of the titles. I love that title. And Jerry Pate saying thank you for congratulating him. And we also have Liz coming back with the book trailers are always fun to watch. That's cool because that's what we intended when we started doing the video stuff, that, hey, we can put the video trailers out there now. So,
yeah. So let's meet this week's guest, John W. Howell. He's been working in business for over 40 years and now has the time to work in particular areas of interest. His passion has always been to create compelling fiction stories. He's written 8 novels. He also writes short stories and has had some published. His short story, Cold Night Out, won an honorable mention in the Writer's Digest Popular Fiction Contest. He dabbles in poetry and has published a few. He is trying new forms and will sneak out of the dressing room and into the water once he thinks one is worth reading. He's primarily a haiku fan. His weekly haiku was named a John-ku due to its lack of seasonal convention. So, John W. Howell, he's an old friend of ours. We've known him for many years. We've been out dancing and surfing and hitting the clubs with him, and it's nice to have him on the show. Welcome, John.
Exactly, and it's great to be here.
All right. Now, John, you went to college up here in my neck of the woods at Michigan State, correct?
Yeah, I sure did, and I've been trying to live it down ever since. So.
Go
Yeah, I
Spartans.
graduated from Michigan State.
All right.
Of course, I doubled down and got a master's out of Notre Dame. So
Well, there you go.
I
Now,
tried to wash my hands in the Red Sea or the Red River, I guess.
Red Cedar River. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, Patricia Guthrie, she says, I agree. I love the trailers as well. See that? That's pretty cool. Now, John, I just mentioned you went to college up here at East Lansing, and you went to Notre Dame, and you're in Texas now. So where are you originally from, and where all have you lived?
Oh my gosh, that's a big long list, Beem. I was born in Detroit and lived there, well, I guess till I was a freshman at Michigan State. Kind of went through college and then moved to Columbus, Ohio. And from Columbus, Ohio, it was a matter of back and forth in the Midwest to Chicago several times. Not back to Ohio, unfortunately. Then out east to Connecticut and the New York area. Then back to the Midwest. Indiana was headquarters of the company I worked for. So they called me up one time and said, "You got to report here." I went, "Oh, okay. Well, I like Indiana, I think." So did about 2 tours there. And then from Indiana, I went out to California. Spent some time out there as a consultant, and then got hired by international telecommunications company, which was one of my clients. And then stayed in California for a while, and then got that call again to move to headquarters, and came to San Antonio, Texas.
So
From there, I finally decided to quit working. I loved it, so I stayed in till I was almost 71.
So what was the company that brought you to Indiana? What's your main field of work that you were doing back then?
Yeah, I was in consumer healthcare. The company that you're probably familiar with makes Alka-Seltzer. The old name was Miles Inc. New name Bayer. And I ended up being head of the Miles company, and then spokesperson to the Bayer group, the Bayer board. And then it was time. Somebody walked in and said, "We've got a new job for you if you want it." And I said, "Well, where's that?" "Midland, Texas." I said, "Yeah, I think I'll go out on my own if you don't mind." And they went, "Yeah, good." So that's what happened. I got finally hired by a client. Eventually retired to Port Aransas, Texas. And then at that point, Hurricane Harvey came through, and I just said, "I'm not going to do too much more of this." And so we moved to Austin to be near our daughter. So that is a whirlwind tour. I think we had 22 homes in that period of time. I glossed over a few, I'm sure.
Now here's a comment on the screen here. Hello, John. It's Willow Croft. Kristen May.
Hi, Willow. How are you?
Now, are you still doing anything with business at all? I mean, I know you're mostly retired and just writing, but is it just writing? That's it?
Yeah, just writing is it. I did have an engagement. I think I was retired so-called retired for 5 years, and someone called me and said, "Hey, would you help us with this?" And I said, "Sure." But it was a brief one. It was about 3 or 4 months, and that was it. And I always said I was with organized commerce. And yes, I tried to make it sound like organized crime. And at some point in time, although I felt I was very successful, at some point in time, I was just kind of seeking something else, and that something else was writing. I did try to write while I was working, which produced my first manuscript, which was 120 pages of total dreck. Do you know the word dreck?
I've written some.
Yeah, so have I. I've written a lot of it. And I printed it off, and I was on an airplane. So I said, well, I better print it because my computer didn't have enough memory to carry that many pages. And I started reading, and I got to about page 30. I said, this is the worst thing I've ever read. It's horrible. So I took the printed version, which was about this thick, and used it to hold the wind from slamming the laundry room door shut. So the manuscript wasn't wasted. It actually has served me very well in the doorstop capacity. And I figured, I can't keep working and try to write. The nighttime stuff, the weekend stuff. You're grumpy all the time. Nothing's working. So I just set it aside until I could do it full time. And that was in 2012. Threw down my tools, my automatic weapons, and everything else, and walked off the job and started writing.
Told the boss to go to hell, did you?
No, I didn't. No, because
Well, you could have said yeah before you lit your cigarette up and flipped in the bird and jumped into your convertible and tore off.
I did want to throw a piece of dynamite back as I left, but I didn't do it. I refrained myself. In fact, my boss was a 40-something person, and they know everything.
Oh, yeah.
Positively everything. Here's a 70-year-old geezer, right, who's been around the horn maybe 42 times. And the word of the day was, I'm telling you what to do. I went, okay, that works for me. And that didn't work after a while, so that's when I left.
Here's another comment for you there, John.
Hi, Laura. How you doing?
She's waving.
She'll comment back, I hope, that she's doing okay.
Now, you briefly mentioned your wife. You want to tell us about her, about your family?
Did I mention my wife?
I thought he did, didn't he, Beem?
I don't think so.
I hardly ever do that. But anyway, okay, yeah.
I thought your wife was involved in the decision to move to Texas. I think that's when you mentioned her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it might have been a brief mention there. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, she's a beautiful person and has pretty much put up with my shenanigans for a number of years and has been totally supportive of writing. Much like most indie writers, the spouse at home wants to know when I'm going to be on the Today Show.
Still waiting.
Yeah, still waiting.
Hey, you're on this show, which is almost
I'm on this
good,
show, yeah,
which
absolutely.
is almost as good.
Yep. No, I agree. But she's been very supportive, and she has on my blog, she has the title The Producer. And she, in fact, does most of the, what I would call legwork on finding the stories that we run on Sunday. So she actually does produce the blog. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. So you got any hobbies when you're not writing? What do you like to do? What do you like to do to relax?
To really relax, I enjoy a glass of wine. As far as hobbies are concerned, I used to have stuff like golf and things, but I found that writing, in other words, a blog 6 days a week, keeping a work in process going on an annual basis, that's really my hobby, is my writing, I guess.
All right.
All right. I think it's time to play a couple of trailers, Beem.
I agree.
We're talking to John W. Howell, author, former businessman, denizen of Texas now, after working his way around the country a little bit. And we're looking for some comments or questions. If you want to, whatever social media you're watching on, make a comment, ask a question.
Post them up there, people.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you.
Announcing from Fresh Ink Group by acclaimed author Stephen G's Fantasy Patch. Picture this. Dante Roenick creates ad campaigns, reveling in the fine art of rendering his concepts on million-dollar canvases financed by big-budget clients. Intoxicated by the sheer power of directing public opinion, He dares wage war against the conglomerate behind a worldwide antidepressant increasingly associated with sporadic violence. To juxtapose his images with reality, he enlists a mixed palette of business tycoons, his fiancée attorney, a team of corporate spy soldiers of fortune, one resurgent news anchor, and the best TV production crew in all of Chicago. But the sharp lines dividing perception from truth begin to blur when the darker motives shaping mass media come to light. Forced to re-examine the ethics of designer pharmacology, Dante is painted into a corner, his future about to be erased as patients die, clients lie, and unhealthy doses of murder prove too hard to swallow. Too late to whitewash the stain of deceit, Dante must decide who deserves to appear in his picture. The true subject, an unfinished self-portrait, way past its own deadline. It's not what you see, not what you get. Let Dante show you how. With a fantasy patch. Read Fantasy Patch now in print or ebook, available worldwide. Proudly published by the Fresh Ink Group.
In 1945, 10-year-old Ronald Dennison, the son of a backwoods Arkansas preacher, began having profound dreams about religion and a strange red-haired woman. The dreams follow him for decades, with the woman sometimes seducing him, other times calling him to become a televangelist, but eventually berating him for his sins of lust. She holds a secret so dark that he dares never admit it, even to himself. The more famous and wealthier he becomes, the more he struggles with his adultery, his fetish, and his shame, until his torment can no longer be contained. Staggering revelations challenge everything he ever believed. Will truth bring him the peace he always craved? Or will the woman's demands prove more than he can bear? Read the novel The Calling Dream by Carlisle Thoms. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group in hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats. The Calling Dream by Carlisle Thoms.
All right.
Yeah.
The Calling Dream. And if you didn't catch it, Carlisle Thoms was on this show here a few weeks back. So go look for that in the archive.
Yeah, definitely.
Tonight we are with John W. Howell, and there's a couple more comments here. Now, Liz Gaffro, she's asking, what's your next book? We'll get to that when we get to the conversation about what's up next for John W. Howell. And then we've got
hot
this
seat
one here.
question.
Here's another one. Stephen Botcher. Hi, John. Congrats on your book's successes. Lucy and I are watching.
Thank you, Steve. Say hi to
Lucy
Lucy for me.
All right.
Lucy's his dog.
Oh,
Yeah. And speaking of dogs, talk a little bit about your dog, because I'm guaranteeing that people that are watching, they check out your blog. So how are your dogs doing?
They're doing great. We have a new Frenchie. Her name is Tempest, and we can't believe it. She's a year old already. The name Tempest, of course, brings up kind of visions of turmoil and like the tornado or whatever. Perfect description of Tempest. The other Frenchie is a laid-back 7-year-old by the name of Twiggy.
And it's hard to believe Twiggy's 7. I remember when you just got her as a pup.
I know. And, the curse of humans, and it's sad that we can't quite, either live as long as our dogs, or I wish they could live as long as we do. But the time goes so fast. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So anyway, Twiggy and Tempest have a on and off relationship. They basically love each other, but there are times when, the rubber hits the road and one or the other has to kind of get dominant. So we're in a process of sometimes pulling them apart, but it's okay. They don't seem to have any fur flying or any of that.
Hmm.
But they're subject of Thursdays on my blog. I call it a little personal because generally they kind of expose me to some what I would call significant ridicule at times. So we we've enjoyed. I think that particular feature has been going on for even before Twiggy, with Lucy
Yeah.
and her minions, and so we've really enjoyed that, and we enjoy the two dogs. I mean, they're so typical of Frenchies. They absolutely do nothing, demand everything, and they want life handed to them.
Almost sounds like a cat. Do nothing and want everything handed to him.
Exactly. Only they weigh 25 pounds each,
Yeah.
so we don't
Now,
argue.
John, we have a lot of questions we want to ask you, but you've got 8 books. So I think we should probably start jumping into some of these books, see if we can drum up some readers, sell some copies, and who knows, maybe win an award or two. So you want to start with The Last Drive?
Yeah, we're gonna pop some stuff up here, and you just
Okay.
tell us a little bit about each of these books as we go through them.
Yes.
Will
Now,
do.
this is the first in the trilogy.
It's the second, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I'm
Should we
sorry.
pop up Eternal Road first?
Turner
There we
Road.
go.
There you go. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, that's the first in a series. And the Eternal Road series kind of came out of the fact when I was 10 years old. My dad passed away. And as a 10-year-old kid, you sit there and you go, why does this happen? Adults are very helpful, oh, well, your dad's in heaven and he's feeling better and da 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 da. But to a 10-year-old, it doesn't make sense. So I kind of started to think through what could I produce that would make sense to me. And so I produced an afterlife where people with their souls, assuming they've been good, of course, people are able to select where they're going to spend eternity. So, and that's the basic underlying story through the 3 books. And so the action starts with a guy seeing a hitchhiker at the side of the road. And he basically doesn't know if he should pick him up or not. Then he discovers it's a female, and he goes, "Oh, well, I'm going to pick her up after all." Well, he finds out that not only is she a female, she was the female in his life back in grade school, and she is no longer of this world. And during the ride, he finds out he isn't either. So the story goes from that point all the way to how do we find the eternal home for the main character. And they go through all kinds of trials and tribulations. Most of the trials and tribulations are put forward by their antagonist. And I picked the biggest antagonist I could find, okay? Lucifer. You can't find anybody, any bigger than that, I don't
He's
think.
the original.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't want to fool around with, somebody that could be corrupted or whatever. So Lucifer has one goal in mind, and that is Samantha and James are the two protagonists. He wants Samantha as his queen, and he wants to stick it to God because these two are, they've passed over. They're more like angels. They haven't actually gone to the highest level of heaven yet. There's kind of a work in process. But if he figures if he can get Sam to join him in the underworld, then he'll have, a big feather in his cap. So the 3 books basically are Lucifer taunting Sam and James, making their lives a nightmare all to try to get Sam to join his team.
So then The Last Drive is the second book.
Yes. And again, we're dealing with a couple of souls. One of the tenets, also I should have mentioned before I didn't, is that when you pass over, you get a guide. And you get a guide that can pretty well understand your situation. In other words, in The Last Drive, we have a guy serving in Afghanistan in the Air Force, and he absolutely loses control of his airplane because it basically got shot full of holes. And instead of just bailing out, he guides it into a kind of a field where no one was going to get hurt, because the plane actually, if he had left it, would have hit a school. So, and who meets him for the eternal guide, so to speak, is Eddie Rickenbacker.
The
famous World War I ace, yeah. So off they go, the two of them, trying to figure out where the pilot is going to spend his eternity. And then, of course, Lucifer doesn't necessarily want everything to go smoothly, so he sets up a lot of barriers to the pilot finding his eternal home. And then the last book, which is Detour on the Eternal Road, actually kind of is the title is a description of really the action. In other words, we're on the Eternal Road. Our protagonists, get a message from Angel Michael that something's gone wrong, and both souls are missing. They're supposed to be on the Eternal Road, but both of them are gone. So Sam and James have to go down to Earth, and they have to find these two and get them back kind of where they're supposed to be. And they know who was involved. Well, who is involved? Lucifer, of course. Each book opens with almost a prologue, but it may or may not be labeled that, which gives you a kind of a hint as to what Lucifer is up to. In Detour, our angel is an old guy by the OK Corral, and he has no idea how he got there. Has no idea where he's supposed to be, what he's supposed to do. So he enlists the help of Wyatt Earp. Well, Wyatt's a good guy. He's a good guy. So he's going to help him. And of course, Sam and James meet up with him and try to figure out where Dale Earnhardt is, because Dale is the one who is going to guide him to his eternal home. So there you go.
So you see on the screen there, Jan Sykes says, "Hi, John. Tell us about the Oldsmobile." Now, before you do that, I don't know if you saw this, Liz Gaffro. She is recommending all three books. She's read all three of them. So,
thanks, Liz.
And then we got Jan asking about the Oldsmobile.
The Oldsmobile.
Yeah. Before you hold out Jan's Bargainer series, each one features an old car on the cover, like from the 1930s.
Yeah.
So she's copying your style there, John.
Nah, she's way ahead of me.
Yeah.
Jan. Yeah.
And what are you holding up there?
Her stuff's terrific. And let me pause for a minute. Your advertising book, I loved. I read it, I don't know, quite a while ago. But having been in advertising, I mean, you were right on that one. So here's a picture of the Oldsmobile. It's a 1956 Oldsmobile sedan. And it's the conveyance, because our characters go between times and places. In other words, they can go forward or they can go back. And the Oldsmobile basically takes them there until, of course, at some point in time, they're able to go with themselves. But the Olds is the convenience. And the Oldsmobile, quite honestly, is kind of a token from my youth. While I was in high school, I used to wax automobiles. And I lived in a town, and Stephen knows the town, Birmingham, Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And everybody around there complains about the money blowing on everybody's lawn.
Yeah.
They have lawn care that kind of gets those dollars blown away. So I used to, very lucrative business as a high school and college guy, waxing automobiles. And one of my favorite was this particular Oldsmobile model. It had a very nice green and a cream mix. And the green, the neighbor that hired me to wax it, the paint was all faded. In the 50s, they didn't have clear coat and all that stuff to keep the paint from fading. So if a particular person didn't pay a lot of money to have a supplier clear coat their car, then they had fading. So this car was faded horribly in the sun. And so I used wax and all that and brought it back. And the guy was so happy with his 1956 Oldsmobile. And he made me happy. And he hired me to wax that thing. And I finally had to tell him, I'm going to go to work full time. I cannot keep waxing your car. Oh, you got to. So I finally had to, and as far as I know, he still has the car. I mean, it was a beautiful car. So that's the story of the Oldsmobile.
My dad worked for Oldsmobile. He was in quality control.
In Lansing.
For Oldsmobile, right? In Lansing, yeah. Yep, for almost 30 years. And then he retired and moved to Florida.
Yeah.
But so we always had Oldsmobiles when I was a kid growing up. But then, or Chevys. He'd get the Chevy Blazers a lot too. So
yeah. Well, I of course went to school in Lansing, or East Lansing actually.
Yeah.
And so the Olds there was, the factory was something that we troop over now and then for tours, college kids. And then you go for an interview, and I interviewed for a job as a foreman.
Yeah.
When I graduated. And everything was great until I met the actual foreman, who had a thumb with a bandage about this big. and he said, "Oh, don't mind my bandage." He said, I got my thumb caught in the stamp. I said, "Could I see that?" He said, "Sure." So he took me over to this thing that's going boom,
yeah,
boom. And I'm going, coordination, 0. Thumb, probable. I think I'll find something else.
Yeah, my dad was a foreman early on. He worked his way up to foreman, and then they put him through school. And he had a math mind. He was into calculus and all this stuff, and so
right.
they promoted him put him to school and promoted him to quality control. So he'd be on the road sometimes, going down to like Defiance, Ohio, and checking the piston heads, and are these good, or do we need to chuck them, grind them up, and start again? And
right.
They hated seeing him down there because the whole day's worth of work could be shot. But yeah, they're still make automobiles at that plant in Lansing, at one of the plants, but they're Cadillacs now.
Not a bad brand.
Yeah. That round tail light screams 1956 because that was gone in 57. And that's that color scheme was also real common on the Bel Air, the Chevy Bel Air.
Yeah,
exactly.
I loved seeing those Bel Airs going down the road with that. It's kind of a teal green,
or aqua green, or something.
Yeah, I don't know the exact name, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
In fact, I was racing on the streets, Woodward Avenue, streets of Detroit, and I had
where you do that.
Yeah. 1949 Ford Club Coupe that incidentally came from the factory with a 411 rear end, which, if anybody knows racing, that's a rear end that allows you to completely get off the line very quickly. And I could beat everything on Woodward Avenue until the 1957 Chevy came out.
Yep.
And it was the first V8.
A big block.
Big block V8 for Chevy.
Yep.
And that was the end of my racing career. And then I went to college. So, oh well.
How about we talk about some more of these books here?
Oh, gee, we're having so much fun.
Yeah, well, this is fun too.
I'm thinking
Okay.
My Girl. Yeah.
Yeah, My Girl is the first book in the John Cannon, what I call the John Cannon trilogy. And it's basically a story of a lawyer who vacationed, guess where? Port Aransas, Texas.
Oh.
Yeah. He vacationed there and he liked it so much. He was a San Francisco lawyer who was in litigation. He's a litigation lawyer. So he had saved a bunch of money. I think he had about 4 or 5 million in the bank because he won a lot of cases. And he just had no time for pleasure at all, none, because he was working all the time. So he went on vacation for a week, got fishing and all that stuff, relaxing. And he up and decides to buy a boat, which he does, a Hatteras, about a 97-footer. And he wants to become a captain. Well, he didn't realize he had to go to school for a couple of years. A typical lawyer, right? Didn't realize he had to go to school to be captain and all that. But anyway, he was planning to do all that. In the meantime, a group of terrorists saw his boat and figured that with enough explosives packed into it, they could in fact direct it on a remote basis to collide with the Annapolis midshipmen who were on their summer cruise. Whole reason for doing that, just to create mayhem, much like 9/11. And John didn't know. John Cannon is the guy's name. Didn't know that his boat was earmarked for that destruction. So the boat and the story, the boat was named My Girl, which is kind of a name that John gave the boat. GRL, by the way, that basically aren't any vowels in boats' names many times. So the rest of the story is, how does John interfere with these terrorists and get them not to use his boat as a bomb, basically. So that's it. I won't give away the plot. I mean,
Yeah.
okay. His revenge, of course, the play on words, my, his, and our, was on purpose, of course. His revenge, what John had done in his courtroom antics, had embarrassed a very high level individual who happened to be a backer of terrorists, incidentally. So it was no accident his book was picked in the first book. The second book, the high-level guy that John Cannon had embarrassed in court was out to destroy John any way possible. His first act, and if you see the little bullseye on the head of the model there, his first act was to assassinate John's girlfriend. And from that point on, John obviously wants to get this all figured out and wants to kind of bring the thing to fruition. Unfortunately, the book is labeled His Revenge because his antagonist does carry the day. Doesn't kill John, of course, because we're into the third book, which is called Our Justice.
Yeah, you can't kill the main character off.
No, that would be as someone once said, that would be silly. So Our Justice is getting back at that antagonist and bringing the story to a conclusion that almost anybody would love at the end. And there's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, there's a lot of machinations and that kind of stuff.
Okay. Is there any chance for another in that series, or is that?
You know, I started. There's a character in there by the name of Ned Trains, who's the police chief of Port Aransas, and he's a kind of a colorful character. He wears Hawaiian shirts and flip flops, which is kind of unusual for a police officer, but oh well. I've got about 6,000 words written on Ned, and I kind of looked at it last week, and there's something in there, and I think maybe I'll go back to that and see if it's going to be worthwhile.
Might this be an answer to Liz Gaffro's question?
What's that?
I say, might this be the answer to Liz's question about what's next?
Oh yeah, there you go. She asked the question about what's next.
Yeah, Liz, I don't want to commit. Okay, I'm weaving around like this on the hot seat, because I'll tell you, my original project was going to be I do on my blog, I do 10 things not to do. Okay, and it was as opposed to 10 things that you should do, right? Good top 10 lists. Well, this is the top 10 things not to do.
Yeah.
And I've got 5 years of them, and they're all edited, and everything is wonderful.
Oh, cool.
And I thought I would just put that in a volume, because they'll carry you through the year and kind of give you a laugh a day, pretty much. And I thought maybe I just organize that and put it in a volume. It's not really new work, but I think people would like being able to recap those and go back and look at them. Now, that was top of mind.
Yeah.
Net Trains came up. One of these deals. Net Trains came up while I was trying to recover my Mac. I had a black screen Mac for a couple of days, and while I was trying to recover it, I finally recovered it and went into some old files. And there was, on my new Mac, the files are all gone, of course. On my old one, because I got a monitor and put it in place and everything, there's Net Trains. And I went, oh, and I started reading it. Stupid me. So, Liz, there may be another John Cannon, but it'll be from a Ned Trains perspective. Because John got married, he has children.
Well, she's saying no pressure.
Oh, okay, thanks. Thanks, Liz. Yeah. Liz is the same kind of person who got me into book 2 of the Road series, Eternal Road. I wasn't going to write another one. No, book 3.
Well, it's good that you did.
Yeah,
I read the first one and enjoyed it. I've got the other 2 on my Kindle. Tell us a little bit about this one here, Circumstances of Childhood.
Yeah, I finished the trilogy, and it's a book written in the first person, and it's in present tense, and it was a lot of work to keep it that way, as you can imagine, and it was written without using the pronoun I a lot, because that's the death to the first person kind of narrative. So I wanted to kind of relax. So I had a little inkling, and remember I told you about my religion that I created as a kid. I had a little inkling that what would be fun would be to kind of inject, in other words, have kind of a cross genre, inject a little paranormal into a thriller. So Circumstance of Childhood is thriller fiction with a little paranormal thrown in. Now, the paranormal section is my protagonist is a big Wall Street guy. He's an old football player, has tons of money, and all of a sudden was accused of insider trading. And in fact, all the evidence pointed to his computer. That was the one that did the work. He knows, and we know he's innocent, but tell that to the feds, right? So a little bit of a problem there. Well, the paranormal part is his best friend, and they were going to play at Texas, University of Texas. They were going to play football. They were drafted, and unfortunately, they got in a car wreck before the season even started. So he had to continue on. He became an All-American and all that. But his friend comes back to try to help him out of this mess with the feds. Long story short, you read the book to find out if he was successful.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Now let's talk about the contract. Let's go ahead and play the trailer, Beam. Everybody should know that John wrote this book with Gwen M. Plano, and then she went on and wrote the second and third books in the series herself. We published the second and third books, so the first time we made a trailer was after we published the second book. So we're going to play the trailer that covers the contract, co-written by John with Gwen Plano, and the second book as well. So you can ignore the second book if you want.
Okay, so this one is it the culmination or is it
the choice?
The choice. Okay.
Yeah, that was the second book.
All right, here we go.
Best-selling author Gwen M. Plano presents The Choice, The Unexpected Heroes, Book 2 in her Heaven and Earth thriller trilogy. In the first book, co-penned by best-selling author John W. Howell, the Earth is threatened with a catastrophic event, and Heaven's leadership intervenes with extraordinary measures to ensure the survival of the planet. Two souls volunteer to return to Earth and take human form as Brad Channing and Sarah O'Brien. The Choice picks up where the first book ends, at an Air Force base in Northern California. The base commander invites Brad's former Navy SEAL instructor to help him determine who is behind two very personal murders. Their deaths are part of a bigger plan, and the commander urgently needs to thwart that plan. Implicated are key Washington, D.C. officials. A confidential team uncovers a traitorous conspiracy that has as its goal world domination. The pressing question is, who can be trusted and who cannot? Grab your copy now of The Choice, The Unexpected Heroes by Gwen M. Plano. Available worldwide in hardcover, paperback, and all major ebook formats. The Choice is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group.
Ooh, epic.
Great trailer. Yeah.
So, John, how did you come to work with Gwen on that first book?
Well, you know what? We were part of another club, which I won't mention.
The cult?
The cult.
The cult.
The cult book club.
I like that. The cult, yeah. We were both immersed in the cult process. And we started talking about collaboration. And I said, geez, I'd love to. I'd love to write a book with you. And she said, well, I would too. So what we did is we traded ideas, story ideas. Gwen's idea was what eventually became the book in terms of having a heavenly body governing people who have to come down to Earth to save the Earth. And it was all great. Gwen had never written anything in the thriller genre before. She was, memoir only. And so we had a lot of fun, each teaching us a little bit about each other's talent. And eventually, we had not met in person, by the way, and eventually published the book. The one thing that I loved about it, the fact that it was a collaboration, was that most of the reviews, well, all of the reviews, mentioned that you couldn't tell it was two authors, that it was a seamless collaboration. In other words, any page you turned to, it was like one voice. And we worked very hard on that to make sure that neither my voice or her voice was the only voice that was carrying, the day. And Gwen had some other ideas about The Choice, And I thought, good, I wasn't in it for a full series in my mind. So she went off and did a marvelous job with the next two. And I'm real happy that she and I got together on the first one.
Yeah, it's that to me would be a hard thing to do, is to co-write, especially when you're in different parts of the country.
Yeah, it was physically, it was very challenging, as you can imagine, because we had to trade copy back and forth. And what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? You had to leave an ego out in the garage somewhere, because you couldn't sit there and try to defend what you thought were beautiful words when the other didn't think they were so beautiful. So it could have been, if not formed right. In fact, we wrote an outline that became pretty much a governing document on how we were going to behave.
Yeah.
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 Here, can we do this?
There we go.
No, we can't. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean
okay.
that would be the way to go. So, all right, you're against section 4, paragraph 3. So you're out of line.
Yeah, or I don't like the purple sweater is where sometimes it's the road. I don't like that purple sweater. Well, too bad. It was given to me by my mother. Oh yeah? Oh no. We hadn't done that, so it was a great collaboration.
Okay, we are about out of time. This has been a blast having you on here tonight, John.
Always fun.
So, yeah, especially with the new format here, we're really liking this. If people want to get a hold of you, follow you online, blog, website, how can they find you?
It's real easy. If they can remember my name, johnwhowell.com.
Okay, I'm going to put that up here right now.
You can throw HTTP in front of it, but even if you just do John W. Howell, you're going to get a Google mess.
And we'll put that on there right there. johnwhowell.com.
All right.
It'll all be small letters, but that's okay.
That's all right.
Now, we've also got a second trailer for that series, the one that covers all 3 of the books. So we're going to play that one on the way out, along with a couple of other trailers. But it's been great having you on the show, John. We really appreciate this. It's
been great being here, and you guys do a great job.
Well,
it was an honor for me to spend time with you.
All right. Okay, listeners, viewers, and hangers-on, next week we're going to have Kenneth Lindquist. He's the author of How to Teach Driving, both Parents Edition and the Instructors Edition. So if you want to learn about that, get your questions and comments ready. And then after that,
we've got a return visit from Zeta Alfaro. She is an author, a singer, a songwriter, a musician. She does it all. She's got a new book out, and we'll be talking about that. But we'll touch on some of her music as well. So tune in for that.
And then Patty Wiseman. She's a children's author, and she writes novels for adults as well. She's got quite a variety of material. We've known Patty for many years. She goes back to the cult as well. So we're looking forward to having Patty Wiseman on.
Yeah. And then after that, we've got somebody we don't know anything about, Patrick Joseph Healy. He reached out to us and requested an opportunity to do this show. And we said, why not? Let's get out there and promote somebody that we don't publish. And he'll be coming in on April the 2nd. And after that,
April 9th, we've rescheduled Angie Birmingham. She got under the weather when we had her scheduled a couple of weeks ago. So she's going to be April 9th. She's the author of Journey Through the Lens, professional photographer who travels the world, amazing people with her photographs. And we're going to show you some of them during the show. So make sure you tune in and catch that.
Yeah, we've got, here's a couple of comments on our way out here. Verwayne Greenhall, thanks for spending the evening with us, John.
Thank you.
And Patricia A. Guthrie says, thank you for coming. And Stephen Botcher says, great job, John. And then we got Liz saying, thanks for a very enjoyable conversation. And Laura Bennett, nice to learn more about your books, John. Great job.
Cool.
Great seeing you, Laura.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody's participation tonight. That gets us worked up, excited, and maybe we'll do another show next week if we can keep this going.
Yeah, and here's Jan Sykes. She says, glad I could join in. And she also mentioned that, yes, the cult.
Yeah.
So we've all had dealings with the cult.
Yeah, and those of you who used to watch Jerry Van Dyke and My Mother the Car, Jan Sykes' father was an Oldsmobile.
Yeah, she fixed that. But
yeah. All right. Thanks again, John. Thanks to my co-host, and we'll see everybody next week. Stick around because we got 3 trailers for you on the way out.
And so we got to take a look and see which ones we're going to do. We'll hit this one, and we'll see everybody again next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Best-selling author Gwen M. Plano presents The Culmination, A New Beginning, the final book in the Contract thriller series. In the first book, co-penned by best-selling author John W. Howell, the Earth is threatened with a catastrophic event, and Heaven's leadership intervenes with extraordinary measures to ensure the survival of the planet. In Book 2, The Choice, a confidential team uncovers a traitorous conspiracy that has as its goal world domination. The pressing question is, who can be trusted and who cannot? The Culmination, A New Beginning brings the Contract thriller trilogy to a close. After an assassination attempt on an Air Force base in Northern California, tensions mount. Heads of state meet to craft a denuclearization agreement. The meetings between these nuclear powers take a murderous turn. A nefarious conspiracy reemerges and leads the characters into the heart of the Middle East, where they encounter the unexpected and find a reason for hope. Grab your copy now of The Culmination, A New Beginning by Gwen M. Plano. Available worldwide in hardcover, paperback, and all major ebook formats. The Culmination is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group.
Loretta Spencer grew up passionate for helping others. Her volunteer work in support of local causes grew into deep devotion to the city and people of Huntsville, Alabama. She went on to serve 3 terms as the city's first woman mayor. In this candid memoir, Loretta recounts her early rise in politics, the campaigns, the deals, and the accomplishments that helped lead Huntsville to grow into Alabama's biggest city today. Loretta shares original photos, clippings, letters, notes from notables, and much more as she tells her personal stories and chronicles this important era of women's history. Read Loretta Spencer, A Passion for Service, a candid memoir by the first woman mayor of Huntsville, Alabama. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, Loretta Spencer's story is available in jacketed hardcover, glossy softcover, and all ebook formats.
Set in medieval Wales during the mystical times of King Arthur, 11-year-old Gavin and his friends are determined to prove their mentor, the Wild Man, innocent of murder. The youngest heir of Pembroke Castle, 11-year-old Gavin longs to prove he is worthy of knighthood, but he fears his own failures, and now he must choose between fleeing and fighting to save his friend. Gavin's coming-of-age story is full of mystery, intrigue, betrayal, and the charms of an eerie witch. Will Gavin earn his knighthood, or will evil challenge his very survival? Read the young adult chapter book, The King's Ransom, Tales and Legends, Young Knights of the Round Table, by Cheryl Carpinello. And now discover the audiobook, narrated by Ethan Drew, with music and sound effects. Produced and published by Fresh Ink Group. Cheryl Carpinello's King's Ransom, Tales and Legends audiobook is available worldwide.
part of Voice of Indie, a production of Fresh Ink Group. Spread the word, support our guests. Then find us at freshinkgroup.com and be sure to hashtag Fresh Ink Group.